I'm about to show you why the save what's left after spending approach is keeping you broke. Wealthy people do the exact opposite. They save first, then spend freely without guilt on what remains. This video isn't about cutting lattes or tracking every penny. I'm sharing 5 unusual money strategies that feel like cheating the system. These are the psychological hacks and automation tricks that helped me build wealth while actually spending less time thinking about my finances. The traditional budget trap. Have you ever wondered why you can never stick to a budget? You're not alone. It turns out a staggering 79% of people fail at traditional budgeting. That's not just a few people struggling, that's the vast majority of us. And it's not because we're lazy or undisciplined. The real problem runs much deeper. Let's talk about how traditional budgeting typically works. You get your paycheck, immediately pay your rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, and other bills. Then you handle your day-to-day expenses throughout the month. Finally, if there's anything left over at the end, you're supposed to transfer that to savings or investments. Sounds logical, right? But here's what actually happens. By the time the month ends, there's nothing left to save. Maybe an unexpected expense came up, or you had a moment of weakness at your favorite store. Perhaps you justified a few extra takeout meals because work was stressful. Whatever the reason, your good intentions about saving vanish and you start the next month from zero again. This creates a nasty cycle where you're constantly feeling guilty about not saving enough. You try harder next month, tracking every single purchase in a spreadsheet or app. You scrutinize each coffee purchase and lunch out with friends. For a week or two, you're on top of it. But then life happens. You get busy, you forget to log a few purchases, and suddenly keeping track feels overwhelming. Before you know it, you've abandoned your budget entirely. The truth is, our brains simply aren't wired for the constant willpower required by traditional budgeting. Research in behavioral economics has consistently shown that humans have a limited supply of mental energy for decision-making. This concept, called decision fatigue, explains why even disciplined people struggle with financial choices. Each spending decision throughout the day depletes your mental resources, making later decisions more difficult. Think about it this way. You wake up with a full tank of willpower. By the time you've decided what to wear, what to eat for breakfast, handled work decisions, and navigated social interactions, your willpower tank is running low. Then, faced with whether to save money or buy something you want, your depleted brain chooses the immediate reward instead of the long-term benefit of saving. Even more challenging is how traditional budgeting forces you to track every single transaction. Studies show that this level of micromanagement becomes mentally exhausting after just a few weeks. It's like trying to count every calorie you eat forever. Most people simply can't sustain that level of vigilance. Then there's the emotional toll. Traditional budgeting constantly reminds you of what you can't have. It frames your financial life around restriction rather than growth. Every time you check your budget, you're focusing on limitations. This creates a scarcity mindset that can lead to feelings of deprivation, anxiety, and even depression for many people. The psychological impact is particularly strong when budgeting feels like punishment. When you're constantly telling yourself, no, it's natural to eventually rebel. That's why so many people who strictly budget end up having blowout spending days where they ignore their budget entirely to feel a sense of freedom again. What's most frustrating is that none of this is your fault. Traditional budgeting is fundamentally misaligned with how our brains naturally work. It's like trying to go against the current instead of working with the flow of the river. Here's something that might surprise you. Wealthy people often don't budget in this traditional, restrictive way at all. They use a completely different approach, one that works with human psychology instead of fighting against it. They've discovered a method that makes saving automatic and spending stress-free, without requiring superhuman willpower or constant attention. So why do traditional budgets fail for 79% of people? The answer is simple but powerful. They're designed backward. They put savings last when it should be first. They rely on willpower when they should be using automation. They focus on restriction when they should emphasize freedom. Wealth hack number 1, reverse budgeting revealed. Traditional budgeting puts savings last, But what if flipping this approach completely transformed your relationship with money? Reverse budgeting isn't just another financial strategy, it's a psychological hack that makes wealth building almost effortless by working with your brain instead of against it. Let me introduce you to reverse budgeting, the method that financially savvy people have quietly been using for years. The concept is beautifully simple. You save and invest first, then spend freely on what remains without tracking every dollar or feeling guilty about your purchases. It's the exact opposite of what most of us have been taught about careful expense tracking and penny pinching. This approach might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, we've been conditioned to believe that responsible money management means carefully monitoring every purchase and cutting back wherever possible. But here's the thing. Reverse budgeting works precisely because it eliminates the psychological burden that makes traditional budgeting so difficult to maintain. So how does reverse budgeting actually work in practice? The first step is understanding your current financial situation. According to financial experts, you should evaluate your cash flow over a few months to get a clear picture of your average monthly spending. This baseline understanding helps you determine your potential surplus, the amount you could realistically direct towards savings and investments. Let's walk through a practical example to see this in action. Imagine someone earning $10,000 per month. After analyzing their spending patterns, they discover they have fixed expenses, like rent, utilities, and insurance, totaling $4,000, and variable expenses, groceries, entertainment, etc., averaging about $20,500 per month. This means they potentially have a surplus of $3,500. The magic of reverse budgeting happens when this person sets up an automatic transfer of that $3,500 to investment accounts at the beginning of each month, immediately after getting paid. They're now free to spend the remaining $6,500 however they want. No tracking required, no guilt attached. What makes this approach so powerful is that wealth building becomes the priority, not an afterthought that depends on willpower at the end of the month. Rachel Podnos, a certified financial planner, emphasizes the importance of understanding your spending habits before diving into reverse budgeting. She recommends starting conservatively with your automated savings transfers to avoid overdrafts. For instance, you might begin by automatically saving 10% of your income, then gradually increase that percentage as you become more comfortable with the system. Podnos suggests using the 50-30-20 approach as a starting framework, which allocates 20% of your income to savings and debt repayment. This gives you a concrete target to aim for, while still keeping things simple. What's particularly brilliant about reverse budgeting is how it aligns with principles of behavioral economics. Decision fatigue is real. The more choices we make throughout the day, the harder each one becomes. By automating your savings, you're essentially removing one critical financial decision from your daily life. You're no longer relying on willpower to resist spending that money. It's simply not available to spend in the first place. Think about it this way. Traditional budgeting is like trying to drive with the parking brake on. You're constantly fighting against your natural tendencies. Reverse budgeting, on the other hand, is like pointing your car in the right direction and letting momentum carry you forward. It's the financial equivalent of setting yourself up for success, rather than fighting an uphill battle. The flexibility of reverse budgeting is another key benefit. Once your savings are taken care of, you have complete freedom to spend the remaining money as you see fit. Want to splurge on a nice dinner? Go for it. Need a new pair of shoes? No problem. As long as you stay within your remaining funds, there's no need to feel guilty or track these purchases in a spreadsheet. This approach creates a completely different psychological relationship with money. Instead of feeling constantly restricted and monitored, you experience a sense of freedom and empowerment. You're building wealth automatically, while simultaneously enjoying what you have without the constant weight of financial guilt. Setting up your automatic money system. That sense of financial freedom you've been craving doesn't come from obsessively tracking every dollar. It comes from creating systems that work for you, even when you're not thinking about them. Have you noticed how people who seem financially secure rarely stress about day-to-day money decisions? It's not because they're constantly monitoring their accounts. Their secret is much simpler. They've set up automated systems that handle the heavy lifting without requiring constant attention or superhuman willpower. Let's get practical about turning your reverse budgeting approach into an automated money machine. The beauty of this system is that once you set it up, which takes about 30 minutes, it continues working in the background while you focus on living your life. First, let's look at the accounts you'll need. At minimum, you should have 3 types of accounts. Your main checking account, where your paycheck lands, a high-yield savings account for your emergency fund, aim for 3 to 6 months of expenses, and investment accounts for long-term growth. Many experts also recommend creating separate savings accounts for different goals like travel, home down payment, or big purchases. This separation helps you visualize progress towards specific goals, rather than seeing one big pool of money. Now here's where the magic happens: setting up your direct deposit strategically. Did you know most banks offer features that let you split your paycheck automatically? Instead of having your entire paycheck go to checking, you can direct specific percentages or amounts straight to your savings and investment accounts. Think about it. Money that never hits your checking account never feels like it's available to spend. Let's say you get paid every 2 weeks. Call your HR department or log into your employee portal and find the direct deposit section. Many employers let you split your deposit between multiple accounts. If yours doesn't, don't worry. We'll cover another approach in a moment. With split direct deposit, you might send 15% directly to your retirement account, 5% to your emergency fund until it's fully funded, and the remaining 80% to your checking account for bills and spending. If your employer doesn't offer split deposits, you can still automate everything through your bank. Set up automatic transfers that happen on the same day as your payday. This timing is crucial. Financial experts emphasize that transfers should occur immediately after your paycheck lands, not days later when you might have already spent some of that money. By syncing these transfers with your pay schedule, you ensure your wealth building happens before any discretionary spending can take place. What makes this approach so powerful is that it removes both human error and emotional decision-making from the equation. No more, I'll transfer money to savings after I see what's left at the end of the month, which usually ends up being nothing. No more forgetting to make that investment contribution. The system handles it all automatically. For those who want even more help saving, consider using apps like Digit, which analyzes your spending patterns and automatically transfers small amounts it determines you won't miss into savings. Another useful feature some banks offer is Roundup, which rounds up your purchases to the nearest dollar and deposits the difference into savings. Imagine saving 30 to 75 cents every time you buy something. It adds up quickly without you feeling the pinch. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. 1. Set up your accounts: checking, high-yield savings, investment accounts. 2. Adjust your direct deposit to send money directly to these accounts. Or 3. Schedule automatic transfers from checking to your other accounts on payday. 4. Create a calendar reminder to review your system quarterly and increase your savings rate whenever possible. The psychological benefit here is tremendous. Once your wealth building becomes automatic, you experience what psychologists call passive positive defaults. Good financial decisions happening without requiring active choice. This removes the mental burden of constantly having to make good decisions and eliminates the guilt that comes from forgetting or choosing not to save. Think about how liberating it feels to know your financial future is being taken care of automatically. You can spend what's in your checking account without overthinking every purchase, because the important stuff, saving and investing, has already happened. This creates a genuine sense of financial confidence that's worlds apart from the anxiety many people feel about their money. The most beautiful part? This system works whether you make $3,000 a month or $30,000. The percentages might change, but the principle remains the same. Automate your wealth building first, then live on what remains. Wealth hack number 2. The lazy investor advantage. With your automated savings system running smoothly, the next question becomes, where exactly should that money go? Here's something that might surprise you. 97% of professional money managers, people who spend their entire careers analyzing the market, consistently fail to outperform simple, lazy investment strategies over a 10-year period. You've probably heard that successful investing requires constant research, actively buying and selling stocks, and timing the market perfectly. Maybe you've even felt guilty about not having the time or expertise to manage your investments this way. But what if I told you that doing less with your investments could actually lead to better returns? This counterintuitive approach is what financial experts call passive investing, and it's revolutionizing how everyday people grow their wealth. Instead of trying to pick winning stocks or timing market moves, passive investing focuses on owning a piece of the entire market through index funds. So what exactly is an index fund? Think of it as a single investment that automatically buys you small pieces of hundreds or thousands of companies. When you invest in a total market index fund, you're essentially betting on the growth of the entire economy rather than individual companies. And historically, that's been a pretty smart bet. Here's where it gets really interesting. Research by Wharton faculty shows that on an after-tax basis, managers of stock funds for large and mid-sized companies produced lower returns than their passive index counterparts, 97% of the time. For small company stock managers, the numbers weren't much better. They underperformed 77% of the time. Why does this happen? Let's break it down. Active fund managers charge significantly higher fees for their supposed expertise. The average actively managed fund charges between 1% to 2% annually, while index funds typically charge less than 0.2%, with some charging as little as 0.1%. That difference might seem small on paper, but over time it creates a massive gap in your returns. Let's look at what this means in real dollars. Imagine you invest $10,000 and earn a 7% annual return before fees. With an active fund charging 1.5%, your actual return drops to 5.5%. But with an index fund charging 0.1%, you keep 6.9% of those returns. After 30 years, the active investment would grow to about $49,000, while the index fund would reach nearly $76,000. That's a difference of $27,000, all from a seemingly tiny difference in fees. And remember, this example assumes the active fund matches the market's performance, which we've seen rarely happens. As Christopher C. Gexey, a Wharton adjunct professor of finance, puts it, the big issue still applies, whether you believe in trying to beat the market or whether you believe in minimizing costs. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know think about costs. But fees aren't the only advantage of passive investing. There's also tax efficiency. Active funds frequently buy and sell holdings, creating taxable events that eat into your returns. Index funds, by contrast, have much lower turnover, resulting in fewer tax bills for you to pay. Then there's the transparency factor. With index funds, you always know exactly what you own. The fund holds the stocks in the index it tracks. With actively managed funds, strategies can be opaque and constantly changing. Even Warren Buffett, arguably the most successful investor of all time, has famously advocated for passive investing. He believes most investors would be better off in low-cost index funds rather than trying to pick individual stocks or actively managed funds. Kent Smetters, a professor of business economics at Wharton, emphasizes that it's incredibly difficult for asset managers to consistently outperform the market by enough to justify their higher fees. The math simply doesn't work in their favor, or yours if you're paying those fees. The beauty of this approach is that it requires dramatically less effort on your part. No need to research companies, analyze quarterly reports, or worry about market timing. Once you've set up your index fund investments, you can literally do nothing for years and likely outperform most professional money managers. This isn't just easier, it's psychologically healthier. When you're constantly monitoring individual stocks or actively managed funds, you're more likely to make emotional decisions based on market fluctuations. The passive approach helps you avoid these costly emotional mistakes. The irony is striking. In a world that celebrates hustle culture and working harder for better results, Investing is one area where doing less often leads to more. By accepting the market's average returns, which have historically been quite good over long periods, and minimizing costs, you position yourself to build wealth more effectively than most active investors. Selecting the right investment vehicles. Now that we understand the power of lazy investing, let's get specific about where to actually put your money. The sheer number of investment options can feel paralyzing. With thousands of funds to choose from, how do you know which ones are truly worth your hard-earned cash? This paradox of choice is why many people end up making random decisions based on whatever fund their friend mentioned or whatever headline they read last week. The secret to cutting through this confusion comes down to a simple framework focused on one key number: the expense ratio. This tiny percentage, often hiding in the fine print, makes all the difference between good and great investment returns over time. Let's break this down into something actionable. When choosing index funds, focus on total market coverage with rock-bottom fees. The most powerful options are total market index funds like VTI Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, VTSX Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, and FSKAX Fidelity Total Market Index Fund. These funds consistently outperform the vast majority of professional money managers, and they share one critical feature: expense ratios under 0.2%, with some charging as little as 0.03%. What makes these funds so effective is their broad diversification. Instead of betting on individual companies or sectors, you're essentially buying small pieces of the entire U.S. stock market in a single purchase. This means you benefit from the growth of the overall economy rather than trying to predict which specific companies will succeed. To build a well-rounded portfolio, consider adding international exposure through funds that track global markets outside the U.S. This provides geographical diversification, protecting you if the U.S. market underperforms, while other regions thrive. Additionally, bond index funds can add stability to your portfolio, especially as you get closer to needing your money. For those who prefer an even more hands-off approach, robo-advisors offer an attractive alternative to self-directed investing. Services like Betterment and Wealthfront essentially automate the entire investment process for you. They'll determine your risk tolerance through a questionnaire, build a diversified portfolio of low-cost ETFs, and handle maintenance tasks like rebalancing your investments when they drift from their targets. What's particularly appealing about robo-advisors is their accessibility. Betterment has zero minimum investment requirement, while Wealthfront asks for just $500 to get started. Their fees typically range between 0.25% and 0.50% annually, significantly lower than the 1 to 2% charged by traditional financial advisors, but higher than managing index funds yourself. These platforms also offer valuable features that can boost your returns. Automatic rebalancing ensures your portfolio maintains the right mix of investments over time. Tax loss harvesting, a strategy that captures investment losses to offset gains and reduce your tax bill, is handled automatically. These services would typically require considerable time and expertise if you were managing investments yourself. The choice between self-directed index fund investing and using a robo-advisor ultimately comes down to your comfort level with making investment decisions. If you're confident selecting a few broad market index funds and rebalancing occasionally, you'll save on fees by managing things yourself. If you prefer a completely hands-off approach or would benefit from the additional features, the modest fee premium for a robo-advisor may be well worth it. For true beginners, experts generally recommend starting with total market ETFs or index funds. They provide instant diversification across hundreds or thousands of companies with a single purchase. This broad exposure reduces the risk that comes with having too much money in any single company or sector. The S&P 500 Index, which tracks 500 of America's largest companies, is another popular starting point. While not quite as comprehensive as total market funds, which include small and mid-sized companies too, S&P 500 Index funds still offer excellent diversification and typically feature very low expense ratios. What makes these passive investments so powerful isn't just their low costs, but also their tax efficiency. Because index funds don't constantly buy and sell holdings like actively managed funds do, they generate fewer taxable events throughout the year. This buy and hold approach means more of your returns stay in your pocket rather than going to the IRS. Remember, the goal isn't to find the absolute perfect investment. It's to get started with good investments that align with proven principles of successful long-term. Wealth hack number 3, digital side hustles for passive income. Investing wisely is just half the wealth equation. The other half is creating additional income streams that don't require your constant attention. What if I told you that the average person has 7 different income opportunities at their fingertips right now, but most never recognize them? Digital side hustles represent the new frontier of passive income, where a single good idea can generate revenue for years to come. Let's be honest about traditional side hustles for a minute. Driving for Uber, delivering food, or picking up extra shifts all have the same fundamental limitation. You're trading hours for dollars. The moment you stop working, the money stops flowing. But digital side hustles flip this equation completely. The magic of digital side hustles is that they allow you to do the work once, but get paid repeatedly. This is the fundamental difference that makes them so powerful for building wealth. Instead of constantly exchanging your time for money, you're creating assets that can generate income while you focus on other things, or even while you sleep. Let's talk about 5 specific digital side hustles you could start this weekend with minimal investment. First, selling digital products. Think ebooks, design templates, printables, or online courses. The beauty here is that once you create the product, you can sell it an unlimited number of times without additional work. Platforms like Teachable make it easy to host and sell courses, while Etsy provides a marketplace for digital downloads like planners or artwork templates. The startup costs just your time and creativity. Second, affiliate marketing. This is one of the easiest ways to build multiple streams of income online. You simply recommend products you already use and love, then earn a commission when people purchase through a unique link. Whether you share these recommendations through a blog, social media, or email newsletter, you're leveraging your personal influence without creating products yourself. The best part is that affiliate marketing can be incorporated into content you're already creating. Third, freelancing on platforms like Upwork or Fiverr. While traditional freelancing exchanges time for money, the digital approach allows you to create service packages that scale. For example, instead of offering unlimited revisions and custom work, you might create standardized packages with clear deliverables. This approach lets you optimize your processes and increase your hourly rate without working more hours. Fourth, creating a YouTube channel or blog. While these take longer to monetize, they can become some of the most rewarding digital side hustles over time. Through ad revenue, sponsorships, and affiliate marketing, content creators can build multiple income streams from a single platform. The key is consistency and finding a niche where you can provide unique value. Fifth, subscription-based services. From premium newsletters to membership communities, the subscription model creates predictable, recurring revenue. By solving ongoing problems for a specific audience, you can create a sustainable income stream that grows more valuable as you add members. What's remarkable about these digital side hustles is that real people, not just internet gurus, are making them work. Take Sarah, who started selling digital planners on Etsy while working full-time. Within 6 months, her side hustle was generating $2,000 monthly in passive income. Or Michael, who built an affiliate marketing business around hiking gear reviews that now earns more than his previous corporate salary, all from content he created years ago that still drives traffic and sales. The barrier to entry for these digital side hustles is surprisingly low. For most, you need nothing more than a free account on a platform, some initial content or services to offer, and basic promotion through social media. You don't need technical skills, business experience, or significant startup capital. To get started this weekend, pick one digital side hustle that aligns with your existing skills or interests. If you're organized, create digital planners. If you're knowledgeable about a topic, start a YouTube channel. If you love trying new products, explore affiliate marketing. Next, sign up for the appropriate platform, whether that's Etsy, YouTube, a blogging platform, or an affiliate program. Then create your first piece of content or digital product. This doesn't need to be perfect. You'll improve with time. Finally, share what you've created with friends or on social media to get your first visitors or customers. Wealth hack number 4. The psychology of spending less. Creating additional income streams is powerful, but what many of us miss is how our brains might be quietly sabotaging our financial progress. The fact is, most of our spending decisions happen below the surface of our conscious awareness, in a psychological realm that traditional money advice rarely addresses. Think about the last time you made an impulse purchase. Was it really about needing that item, or was something else at play? Behavioral economics reveals that our financial choices are heavily influenced by psychological, emotional, and social factors that operate outside our awareness. Understanding these hidden influences can be more powerful than any budgeting app you'll ever download. Our brains are naturally wired to prioritize immediate satisfaction over long-term benefits, a phenomenon researchers call present bias. This explains why that coffee shop stop feels irresistible today, even though you're trying to save for something much more meaningful months from now. It's not a character flaw. It's literally how your brain is programmed to function. Here's something fascinating. Research shows that when it comes to money, we're not the rational decision makers we think we are. Take loss aversion, for instance. Our brains experience the pain of losing money much more intensely than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. This psychological quirk can lead us to make financially counterproductive decisions, like holding on to investments we should sell or spending impulsively to avoid missing out on a limited time offer. But here's the good news. Once you understand these psychological patterns, you can redesign your environment to work with your brain instead of against it. For example, simply making purchases slightly more difficult can dramatically reduce impulse spending. Try disconnecting your credit cards from one-click payment options on shopping sites. That small barrier creates just enough friction to give your rational brain time to catch up with your emotional impulses. One of the most effective psychological tricks is something called the 24-hour rule. Before making any non-essential purchase, especially online, close the browser tab and wait a full day. It's remarkable how many must-have items lose their emotional pull after this cooling-off period. What felt urgent yesterday often feels unnecessary today, and that simple waiting period can save you thousands over time. Let's talk about how retailers are actively working against your financial goals. Those limited time offers and only 2 items left notifications? They're deliberately designed to trigger scarcity responses in your brain, bypassing your rational decision-making. And those customers also bought recommendations? That's social proof marketing, exploiting our natural tendency to follow what others are doing. Recognizing these tactics gives you the power to pause and make conscious choices instead of reactive ones. Have you noticed how certain purchases make you feel good because others notice them? This social dimension of spending is powerful, but it can work in reverse too. Research suggests that conspicuous anti-consumption, visibly making sustainable or minimalist choices, can actually elevate your social status while reducing unnecessary purchases. When friends compliment your choice to repair something instead of replacing it, that positive reinforcement helps rewire your spending habits. Understanding your personal money personality is another key insight. Some of us are naturally prone to money avoidance, where we try not to think about finances at all. Others might be money worshippers, who believe money solves everything, leading to overspending. Identifying your specific tendencies helps you create targeted strategies that address your particular psychological blind spots. What makes these psychological approaches so powerful is that they don't rely on willpower, which research consistently shows is a limited resource. Instead of forcing yourself to resist temptation, you're changing the circumstances that create temptation in the first place. This is why people who successfully transform their financial habits often report it eventually feels effortless. They've rewired their environment instead of exhausting their willpower. Try this simple experiment. For 1 week, before any purchase, ask yourself, Am I buying this because I need it or because I'm bored, stressed, or seeking a temporary mood boost? Just bringing awareness to the emotional triggers behind your spending can create a dramatic shift in your habits. You're not eliminating enjoyment, you're ensuring your spending aligns with what truly matters to you. The 30-Day Spending Detox Challenge. That awareness experiment only scratches the surface of what's possible. The true transformation happens when you extend mindfulness into a complete financial reset. What if you took a full month to completely redefine your relationship with spending? This is where the 30-Day Spending Detox comes in. Not as a punishment, but as a revealing journey into your unconscious financial patterns. This detox isn't about deprivation at all. It's about creating meaningful awareness around where your money actually goes and why. Unlike restrictive diets that leave you feeling deprived, a spending detox helps you make thoughtful, intentional choices that actually align with your personal values and improve your overall well-being. Let's get specific about how this works. For 30 days, you'll commit to purchasing only genuine necessities, things like groceries, housing, transportation to work, and medical needs. Everything else, the coffee shop visits, online shopping, dining out, entertainment subscriptions, gets temporarily paused. Before you panic, remember, this is temporary. The goal isn't to never enjoy these things again, but to experience what happens when you step off the automatic spending treadmill. To prepare properly, you'll need to start with a spending audit. Look back through your recent expenses and identify patterns. Where is your money actually going? This creates your baseline awareness. Then comes the crucial step of distinguishing between true needs and wants. This boundary setting is personal. What's essential for one person might be optional for another. One of the most fascinating research findings is that making your commitment public can actually elevate your social status rather than diminishing it. When you tell friends, "I'm doing a 30-day spending detox to reset my relationship with consumption," you're demonstrating self-control and purpose that others often secretly admire. This is called conspicuous anti-consumption, making sustainable choices visible to others in a way that reinforces your commitment. For handling social situations, try suggesting alternative activities that don't require spending. Host a potluck instead of going out. Suggest a hike instead of shopping. You'll be surprised how many people are relieved to have social options that don't drain their wallets. Here's a simple but powerful tracking system to use during your detox. Each time you feel the urge to make a non-essential purchase, take a deep breath and write down 3 things: what you wanted to buy, what emotional state triggered the desire, and one alternative way to address that emotional need. This creates a powerful map of your spending triggers. Other practical strategies include disconnecting your cards from one-click purchase options online and focusing on what the research calls meaningful purchases, those that truly align with your personal values rather than momentary impulses. The Kakebo method from Japan offers another helpful framework. This budgeting approach emphasizes reflection on spending and appreciation of money, asking 4 simple questions before purchases. Do I need this? Can I afford it? Will I actually use it? How do I feel about buying it? The psychological benefits extend far beyond the money you'll save during those 30 days. According to research, people who complete a spending detox report significantly reduced financial anxiety and a completely different attitude toward consumption. One case study highlighted how participants developed increased mindfulness about their financial decisions, leading to better long-term habits, even after the detox ended. What makes this approach so powerful is that it works with your psychology rather than against it. Instead of relying on willpower alone, you're changing your environment and creating new awareness that makes better choices natural rather than forced. You're not eliminating enjoyment, you're ensuring your spending truly enhances your life. Wealth hack number 5, the power of micro-optimization. Beyond mindful spending lies a strategy so subtle, most people miss it entirely. While many stress over drastic budget cuts like giving up lattes or canceling vacations, financial optimization experts are quietly saving thousands through almost invisible adjustments to everyday expenses. I call this micro-optimization, The financial equivalent of finding money between your couch cushions, except we're talking about serious cash. Think about the last time you tried to save money. You probably focused on big, painful sacrifices that left you feeling deprived. That's why most budgeting attempts eventually collapse. They feel too restrictive. Micro-optimization flips this approach on its head. Instead of eliminating things you enjoy, you're making tiny tweaks to regular expenses that you'll barely notice in your daily life. Let's start with an expense audit. Take 30 minutes this weekend to identify your recurring expenses, the ones that automatically charge your accounts each month. Pull up your bank and credit card statements and highlight anything that repeats. You'll likely discover services you forgot you were paying for. This simple audit alone often uncovers $200 to $500 in annual savings from subscriptions you don't even use. Now, let's look at 5 specific expenses where micro-adjustments can lead to surprising savings. First, insurance is a goldmine for optimization. Most people renew their policies automatically without questioning rates. Simply calling your insurance provider and asking for a better rate can save you hundreds annually. One study found that people who negotiate their insurance rates save an average of $300 per year with a single phone call. Phone plans are another prime target. The major carriers count on your inertia, often keeping you on outdated, expensive plans. Check if you're actually using all the data you're paying for. Many people discover they're paying for unlimited data when they rarely use more than 4 gigabytes monthly. Switching to a more appropriate plan or moving to a budget carrier can easily save $20 to $40 monthly without changing your phone usage habits. Cable and internet bills are notoriously negotiable. The secret here is research. Look up competitor rates before calling. When you contact your provider, mention you've been looking at competing offers. Try this script. I've been a customer for X years, and I noticed new customers are getting a better rate. I'd like to get that same rate, or I'll need to switch providers. Companies often have retention departments specifically authorized to offer discounts rather than lose customers. Subscription services deserve special attention because they multiply silently. Most of us have at least 5 to 10 recurring subscriptions for streaming, apps, or memberships. The key is to evaluate each one with a simple question. Is this giving me at least as much value as it costs? For services you want to keep, check if annual payment options offer discounts. Many services offer 15 to 20% off for yearly commitments. Finally, review your banking setup. Are you paying monthly maintenance fees? Is your savings account earning competitive interest? Simply moving your emergency fund from a traditional bank offering 0.01% to a high-yield online account paying 2 to 4% can generate hundreds in passive income annually. The power of micro-optimization comes from its cumulative effect. Each individual change might save just $10 to $30 monthly, but when you optimize 5 expense categories, you're looking at potential savings of $400 to $500 monthly. That's $5,000 plus annually that can be redirected to investment accounts. Tools can make this process even easier. Apps like Truebill and Trim can automatically analyze your spending patterns and suggest areas for savings. Some will even negotiate bills on your behalf. Savings calculators can be particularly motivating. Seeing how saving an extra $200 monthly compounds over 10 years often provides the push needed to take action. Let me walk you through a practical negotiation approach that works for almost any service. Start by researching competitor prices so you know the market rate. Next, prepare a simple script that outlines your current rate and desired outcome. When you call, be friendly but firm. Mention how long you've been a customer and that you'd like to stay, but you've found better offers. Ask directly, what can you do to help me get a better rate? If the first person can't help, politely ask to speak with a supervisor or retention department. Some services also offer micro-saving strategies that accumulate over time. For instance, using a service like Acorns can automatically round up purchases to the nearest dollar and invest the difference. While each transaction might only contribute 25 to 75 cents, this can accumulate into substantial amounts over time, creating your guilt-free spending plan. Those tiny savings from rounding up your purchases are great. But here's something even better. What if you could actually enjoy spending your money without that nagging voice in your head? Most of us have experienced that guilty feeling when buying something for ourselves, even when we can technically afford it. This guilt creates a toxic relationship with money that, ironically, often leads to worse financial outcomes in the long run. Let's flip the script completely. Instead of focusing on what you shouldn't buy, what if your financial plan was built around defining exactly what you can spend? This is the foundation of a guilt-free spending plan, an approach that works with your psychology rather than against it. Think about traditional budgeting for a moment. It's all about restrictions. Don't buy this, cut back on that, stop spending on things you enjoy. No wonder most people eventually rebel against their own budgets. Our brains simply aren't wired to handle constant restriction and deprivation. A guilt-free spending plan takes the exact opposite approach. Rather than micromanaging every dollar, you first handle the important stuff, your savings and essential expenses, and then give yourself complete freedom to enjoy what remains. This simple shift transforms money management from a source of stress into a source of empowerment. Here's how to calculate your own free-to-spend amount. Start by looking at your total monthly income after taxes. From that, subtract your automated savings, remember the reverse budgeting we talked about, your fixed expenses like rent and utilities, and your essential variable expenses like groceries and transportation. What remains is your genuine free-to-spend money, cash you can use however you want without any guilt whatsoever. For example, if you make $4,000 monthly after taxes, you might automatically transfer $800 to savings and investments. Your fixed expenses might total $1,800, and essential variables another $700. That leaves you with $700 of guilt-free spending money each month. The key difference is that you've already handled your financial priorities before this money reaches your checking account. Now, you don't need to track every coffee or movie ticket within this free-to-spend amount. That's the beauty of this system. But if you want some light structure without micromanagement, there are several approaches that work well. Some people prefer using apps that automatically categorize expenses, giving them a general awareness of spending patterns without requiring constant input. Others like the simplicity of the envelope method, not necessarily with physical cash, but by creating separate digital envelopes for different spending categories. What makes this system special is that you're allocating money toward things that genuinely bring you joy. Maybe you love trying new restaurants, traveling, or building a collection of something meaningful to you. With a guilt-free spending plan, you can designate specific portions of your free-to-spend money to these categories. Let's say out of your $700 monthly free-to-spend amount, you might allocate $300 for dining out, $200 for entertainment, and $200 for shopping. These aren't strict limits. They're guidelines that help ensure you're spending on what truly matters to you, rather than random impulse purchases. The psychological benefits of this approach are significant. Research shows that eliminating the guilt cycle around spending can lead to better long-term financial success. When you're not constantly battling yourself over every purchase, you create a healthier relationship with money and are actually more likely to stick with your broader financial goals. Think about it. When you've already automated your savings and covered your necessities, that remaining money is genuinely yours to enjoy. You've earned it. Spending it becomes a positive experience rather than something that triggers shame or anxiety. I've seen this work with countless clients who struggled for years with traditional budgeting. Once they switched to a guilt-free spending approach, they not only felt better about their finances, they actually saved more consistently than ever before. That's because they weren't constantly exhausting their mental energy on tracking and guilt. To make this work for you, start by identifying what you truly value spending money on. For some people, it's experiences like travel or concerts. For others, it's quality items for their home or hobby. Whatever brings genuine joy to your life deserves a place in your free-to-spend plan. The beauty of this system is its simplicity. Once you've set up your automated savings and payment systems, you don't need to invest out, shifting from scarcity to abundance mindset. Systems are powerful, but they're only half the equation. What if I told you the biggest obstacle to financial freedom isn't your income or your spending habits, but the invisible mental programming running in your background? This hidden mindset factor determines whether money flows toward you or constantly slips through your fingers. When it comes to money, there are fundamentally two ways of thinking: scarcity and abundance. The scarcity mindset is characterized by thoughts like, there's never enough, I can't afford that, or money is hard to come by. You might recognize this pattern if you constantly worry about bills, feel anxious when spending on necessities, or experience stress just looking at your bank account. What makes this mindset so dangerous isn't just the emotional toll, it's how it impacts your actual financial decisions. When your brain is fixated on not having enough, you enter a state of tunnel vision that makes it nearly impossible to see opportunities or think strategically. You become reactive rather than proactive with your finances. This tunnel vision creates what researchers call decision paralysis. When you're overwhelmed by financial stress, even simple choices become extremely difficult. Should you pay off debt or save? Invest in yourself or cut expenses? The pressure feels so intense that many people end up doing nothing at all, or worse, making impulsive decisions they later regret. By contrast, an abundance mindset approaches money from a completely different angle. Rather than focusing on scarcity and limitation, it centers on growth, opportunity, and possibility. People with this mindset don't ignore financial reality. They simply frame it differently. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, they ask, how can I afford that? This subtle shift changes everything. The difference isn't just psychological, it produces measurable financial outcomes. Those with abundance mindsets tend to spot opportunities others miss, take calculated risks that pay off over time, and maintain emotional equilibrium during financial setbacks. Their focus stays on growing wealth rather than just preventing loss. So how do you start shifting from scarcity to abundance? One practical approach is through what researchers call mental accounting. This technique involves categorizing your money into different jars for specific purposes. When you have clear categories for savings, investments, necessities, and discretionary spending, you gain a sense of control and purpose with your finances. Another powerful practice comes from goal gradient theory. Our brains are wired to feel more motivated as we get closer to completing goals. Rather than setting overwhelming financial targets, break them into smaller milestones. Instead of saying, I need a $9,000 emergency fund, aim for $250 monthly contributions. Each small victory reinforces your belief that financial progress is possible. The concept of paying yourself first that we discussed earlier is actually a powerful abundance practice. When you prioritize savings and investments before expenses, you're telling yourself that your financial future matters. You're making a statement that growing wealth is non-negotiable, not just something you do if there's money left over. Try this exercise to challenge scarcity thinking. Whenever you catch yourself having a scarcity thought about money, write it down. Then reframe it as an abundance thought. For example, if you think, I'll never be able to afford a home, rewrite it as, I'm developing a clear plan to become a homeowner. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about creating mental pathways that lead to constructive action. Another practice is to regularly expose yourself to people who have healthy relationships with money. This could be through books, podcasts, or community groups focused on financial wellness. Our beliefs about money are largely shaped by our environments, so deliberately creating an abundance-oriented environment can shift your thinking over time. You'll notice that the reverse budgeting approach we've discussed naturally supports an abundance mindset. By securing your savings and investments first, you're prioritizing growth and future possibilities. And by giving yourself permission to spend freely on what remains, you're releasing the restrictive, guilt-based relationship with money that fuels scarcity thinking. What makes abundance thinking so powerful isn't that it ignores financial realities, it's that it approaches those realities from a position of empowerment rather than fear. When you believe opportunities exist and that you deserve financial well-being, you make different choices. You invest in yourself. You negotiate for better pay. You look for creative solutions rather than accepting limitations. Tools to automate your financial success. Now that you're thinking differently about money, let's put those thoughts into action without requiring daily effort. What if the difference between struggling financially and building wealth wasn't about working harder, but about setting up the right systems once and letting them work silently in the background? The truth is, managing your finances manually isn't just tedious, it's actually working against you. Each day, your brain makes thousands of decisions, and research shows that decision fatigue is real. By the time you sit down to review your budget or make financial choices, your mental energy is often depleted. This is where financial automation tools come in as your secret weapon. They handle the repetitive money tasks while you focus on living your life. But with hundreds of options available, which ones actually deliver results? Let's start with savings automation. Digit stands out as a financial planner favorite because it analyzes your spending patterns and automatically transfers small amounts to your savings that you won't even miss. The beauty of Digit is that it adjusts to your cash flow, transferring less when money is tight and more when you have extra. Users report saving an average of $2,500 annually without feeling the pinch. For those just starting out, Chime offers an excellent roundup feature that automatically rounds your purchases to the nearest dollar and deposits the difference into savings. It's effortless. Buy a coffee for $4.25 and 75 cents goes straight to savings. These microtransfers add up surprisingly fast, often resulting in $300 to $500 saved annually through your regular spending. When it comes to tracking where your money goes without the tedium of manual entry, Mint and Personal Capital shine. Mint works well for beginners with its clean interface and basic insights, while Personal Capital offers more sophisticated investment tracking and retirement planning tools. Both connect securely to your accounts and categorize expenses automatically, giving you a clear picture of your finances without the work. For bill management, Trim takes automation to the next level. This tool not only tracks your subscriptions, but actively negotiates your bills on your behalf. Trim analyzes your cable, internet, and phone bills, then contacts providers to secure better rates. Users typically save $250 to $300 annually through these negotiations, and the service also identifies and helps you cancel forgotten subscriptions that might be draining your account. For those concerned about security, as we all should be, you'll be glad to know that reputable financial apps utilize bank-level encryption and two-factor authentication. Many don't even store your banking credentials on their servers, instead using secure token-based connections that prevent unauthorized access. Let's talk about setting up these tools effectively. With Digit, the initial setup takes just 10 minutes. Connect your accounts, answer a few questions about your savings goals, and the app handles the rest. For maximum effectiveness, set specific savings goals like emergency fund or vacation within the app to give purpose to your automated savings. For investment automation, robo-advisors like Betterment and Wealthfront simplify the process by creating diversified portfolios based on your goals and risk tolerance. The real magic happens when you set up automatic deposits, as little as $50 monthly, that go straight from your paycheck to your investment account. This creates a hands-off investment strategy that historically outperforms most actively managed approaches. For beginners, I recommend starting with just 2 tools. One for automated savings, like Digit, and one for expense tracking, like Mint. This combination gives you the core benefits of automation without overwhelming you with too many new systems at once. As you get comfortable, you can add bill negotiation and investment automation to your toolkit. For more advanced users who want deeper insights, tools like YNAB, You Need a Budget, offer customizable features and in-depth analysis of spending patterns. These tools require more initial setup, but provide powerful data you can use to optimize your financial strategy over time. Don't overlook the automation features built into your existing bank accounts either. Most online banks now offer automatic transfers between accounts on specific dates. Setting up a transfer of 10% of your paycheck to a high-yield savings account on payday is one of the simplest but most effective automation strategies you can implement. The compelling thing about these tools isn't just convenience, it's the results they deliver. Users report not only saving more, but experiencing significantly less financial stress, knowing their money is being managed systematically rather than haphazardly. Small habits, big results. Daily money routines. Automation creates the foundation, but the real financial magic happens in the tiny moments most people overlook. Think about it. What if the difference between your current financial situation and the one you dream about isn't about making more money, but about spending 5 strategic minutes each day on money micro habits that compound over time? You don't need to overhaul your entire lifestyle to transform your finances. Those daily 5-minute actions can actually create more significant results than the occasional big financial decisions. It's like tending a garden. Consistent small efforts lead to impressive growth over time. Let me introduce you to the concept of financial micro-habits. These are tiny, intentional actions you can integrate into your daily routine that require minimal time but yield remarkable results. The beauty of these habits is that they don't demand massive willpower or dramatic lifestyle changes. They simply become part of your everyday flow. One powerful micro-habit is the daily balance check. Taking just 30 seconds each morning to review your checking account balance creates awareness that naturally influences your spending decisions throughout the day. This tiny action prevents the money fog that leads to mindless spending and keeps you connected to your financial reality. Another micro-habit worth adopting is the weekly subscription scan. Every Sunday, spend 3 minutes reviewing one subscription or recurring expense and ask yourself, is this still bringing value to my life? By focusing on just one subscription per week, you'll evaluate your entire expense portfolio several times a year without feeling overwhelmed. The one bill, better deal approach is particularly effective. Once a month, choose a single recurring bill and spend 5 minutes researching if you could get a better rate. Maybe it's your cell phone plan this month, car insurance next month, and streaming services the month after. This focused effort typically saves people hundreds annually with minimal time investment. Breaking down larger financial goals into smaller daily actions makes them far more achievable. For instance, saving $1,000 over a year feels daunting as a single goal, but viewed as setting aside just $20 weekly through automated transfers suddenly seems manageable. This mental shift helps maintain motivation and makes your financial objectives feel within reach. Small lifestyle adjustments can free up surprising amounts of money without feeling restrictive. Making coffee at home 3 days a week instead of buying it every day doesn't feel like a major sacrifice, but can redirect hundreds of dollars toward your savings goals annually. These micro adjustments work because they don't trigger the feeling of deprivation that often sabotages financial progress. Creating separate savings accounts for specific goals dramatically increases your likelihood of success. When you can visualize your dream vacation fund growing each week, you're more motivated to continue your micro habits. This strategy keeps your savings purpose-driven and prevents the discouragement that comes from seeing one large, undefined savings pool. The concept of goal gradient theory explains why these approaches work so well psychologically. As you see yourself getting closer to completing goals, your motivation naturally increases. Setting up multiple small milestones rather than one distant target creates regular dopamine hits that keep you engaged in the process. To ensure these micro habits stick, try habit stacking, connecting your new financial routine to something you already do daily. For example, check your account balances while waiting for your morning coffee to brew, or review one subscription while brushing your teeth before bed. This technique leverages existing behavioral patterns to establish new ones. For tracking these habits, a simple approach works best. Create a weekly checklist with your chosen micro habits and hang it somewhere visible, like your refrigerator. Each completed action gets a satisfying check mark, creating a visual record of your consistency. Apps like Habit Tracker or Streaks can serve the same purpose if you prefer digital tools. Understanding your money personality helps tailor these habits to your tendencies. If you experience decision paralysis around finances, automating transfers and limiting daily choices might work best. If you're more hands-on, a daily money journal might be your ideal micro-habit. The key is matching the habit to your natural inclinations rather than fighting against them. Cashback tools and coupon apps offer another 5-minute opportunity that pays dividends. Scanning these quickly before making purchases can return money directly to your savings. Many users find these small returns add up to hundreds annually with minimal effort. Money that would otherwise be left on the table. Your 5-year financial transformation plan. Those small returns from micro-habits might seem modest in the moment, but they're actually the building blocks of something much bigger. When we connect these daily money moves to a long-term vision, the transformation becomes truly remarkable. Let me show you exactly what happens when someone consistently applies these strategies over a 60-month period. Because seeing the numbers mapped out might completely change how you think about your financial future. Picture this. You're making $50,000 a year. Not struggling, but not swimming in extra cash either. By implementing reverse budgeting and consistently saving just 20% of your income, you could potentially accumulate over $70,000 in just 5 years. And that includes both your direct contributions and the compound growth from smart investing. This isn't wishful thinking. It's a mathematical reality that most people never visualize. The first year is always the most challenging. Decision fatigue and the pull of old spending habits create resistance that makes many people abandon their financial plans before seeing real results. This is where understanding your own behavior becomes incredibly valuable. By recognizing your personal spending triggers and decision-making patterns, you can design systems that help you stay committed during those initial months when the payoff isn't yet visible. Month 1 is all about evaluation. Take time to understand your current spending without judgment. Look at your bank statements from the last 3 months to establish baselines for necessary expenses, discretionary spending, and any surplus that exists. This exercise isn't about restriction. It's about clarity. You can't create a realistic savings goal without first understanding your actual cash flow. Months 2 to 3 focus on setting up your automated system. Start modestly, perhaps just 10% of your income, to avoid the shock that often leads to abandoning new financial plans. Create dedicated accounts for your emergency fund and investments, and set up automatic transfers that happen the moment your paycheck lands. By months 4 to 6, you should increase your automated savings rate if the initial percentage feels comfortable. This gradual approach prevents the feeling of financial whiplash that derails many well-intentioned plans. Your goal is to work toward that optimal 20% savings rate without creating unsustainable pressure. The middle of your first year, months 7 to 9, is when you'll focus on optimizing your investment approach. Review the performance of your initial investments, consider whether your asset allocation matches your risk tolerance, and make adjustments as needed. This is also when you might explore additional micro-habits that can boost your savings rate without affecting your quality of life. The final quarter of year 1, months 10 to 12, is about reflection and preparation for year 2. By this point, you should have established a comfortable rhythm with your new financial system. Take time to celebrate the progress you've made, no matter how small it might seem. Success builds upon success, and acknowledging your achievements reinforces the behaviors that created them. Looking at the 5-year picture, your trajectory isn't linear, it's exponential. In the first year, saving 20% of a $50,000 salary would put about $10,000 into savings and investments. But by year 5, that same consistent behavior has potentially created a $70,000 nest egg when accounting for compound returns from investments. This happens because your money starts working alongside you. With an average annual return of 7% from index fund investments, a reasonable historical average, your earlier contributions have more time to grow. Your first year's savings might generate nearly $30,500 in investment returns by year 5, while your 5th year's contributions have less time to compound. To keep yourself on track, establish clear milestones to celebrate along your journey. Your first $10,000 saved, your first $1,000 in investment returns that you didn't have to work for, The first time your automated transfers feel normal rather than painful. Each of these moments represents significant progress on your wealth-building journey. The path isn't always smooth. Market fluctuations will happen. Unexpected expenses will arise. The key is creating a system resilient enough to weather these inevitable challenges. This means establishing that emergency fund first, then moving to investments once you have that safety net in place. Setting aside small amounts consistently works better psychologically than trying to save large chunks sporadically. Breaking down your larger financial goals into manageable steps makes the journey feel achievable rather than overwhelming. Instead of focusing solely on the $70,000 5-year target, concentrate on maintaining your 20% savings rate each month. Creating a separate savings account specifically for your goals enhances your ability to track progress while preventing the temptation to dip into these funds for everyday expenses. This clear separation between spending money and growing money is crucial for maintaining momentum over the 5-year timeline. The real secret: systems beat willpower every time. This separation between accounts is powerful, but it points to something much deeper about human behavior that most financial advice completely misses. While traditional money gurus preach discipline and sacrifice, the psychology of successful wealth building actually works in the opposite direction. The less you rely on willpower, the more likely you are to succeed. Look around at the financial advice landscape. What's the common theme? Most experts tell you to be more disciplined, make better choices, or my personal favorite, just stop buying lattes. This advice assumes that financial success comes from having superhuman willpower. But here's the reality. Willpower is actually your least reliable financial tool. The research is clear on this. Behavioral economics shows that rigidity in traditional budgeting often creates a trap. When we feel confined by strict financial rules, we experience burnout and eventually lose motivation to keep tracking our money. The human brain simply isn't designed to maintain constant vigilance over every financial decision you make. Think about your own experience. Have you ever created a detailed budget, followed it perfectly for a week or two, then abandoned it completely? This isn't a personal failure. It's a predictable outcome of relying on willpower as your primary tool for financial management. What makes willpower particularly unreliable for financial decisions is that our behavior rarely follows a straight line. We make different choices depending on our stress levels, energy, and environment. After a long, difficult day at work, your ability to make thoughtful financial decisions decreases dramatically. You might have started the day with the best intentions, but by evening, you're more likely to make impulsive purchases or ignore your financial plans altogether. This phenomenon explains why even the most determined people struggle with consistency in their finances. Decision fatigue accumulates throughout your day as you make hundreds of choices, big and small. By the time you're faced with financial decisions in the evening, like whether to cook at home or order takeout, or whether to buy that item that popped up in your social media feed, your mental resources are depleted. So what's the alternative? Creating systems that make good financial decisions inevitable. Instead of focusing on changing your behavior through sheer force of will, focus on changing your environment and setting up automatic processes that work in your favor. When financial decisions happen automatically, decision fatigue becomes irrelevant. Here's a practical framework for determining which financial decisions to automate versus which ones deserve your attention. First, identify your most important financial priorities, typically saving for emergencies, investing for retirement, and paying down high-interest debt. These critical decisions deserve automation because they're too important to leave to chance or daily willpower. On the flip side, one-time decisions like selecting investment strategies or determining your optimal savings rate benefit from focused attention. The key is to make these decisions once, set up systems to implement them automatically, then redirect your mental energy elsewhere. Think of it as the difference between manually watering your financial garden every day versus installing an irrigation system that waters it automatically. The second approach ensures your financial goals get met regardless of your daily motivation levels. The concept of implementation intention in psychology reveals that planning specific actions in advance dramatically increases follow-through. By creating automatic transfers for savings, you're essentially making that decision once, rather than having to remake it with every paycheck. This removes the emotional burden from financial decision-making and allows you to focus on spending within your means without tracking every dollar. Small, consistent actions through automated systems compound over time into significant financial improvements. For example, automatically investing even 5% of your income might feel insignificant initially, but over years it grows into substantial wealth, all without requiring constant willpower. Each of the 5 strategies we've covered work precisely because they create systems rather than demanding willpower. Reverse budgeting works because it happens automatically before you can make spending decisions. Lazy investing succeeds because it removes the need for constant research and market timing. Digital side hustles create passive income streams that continue working without constant attention. The psychological spending techniques modify your environment to reduce temptation rather than fighting it head-on. And micro-optimization creates small automated adjustments that add up to significant savings. We've covered a lot of ground today, but here's what it all comes down to. Financial freedom isn't about obsessing over every dollar or depriving yourself of joy. It's about creating smart systems that do the hard work for you. The beauty of automation is that it makes building wealth effortless. Research shows that people who automate their savings save 20% more than those who don't. Why? Because it removes the psychological barriers that trip us up. Your first step is refreshingly simple. Set up one automatic transfer that happens right after payday. The percentage doesn't matter at first. Even 5% is perfect to start. You can always increase it later as you get comfortable with the system. Remember, the secret is saving first, then spending what remains without guilt.